One very, very interesting game that's coming up this weekend in Tbilisi is Georgia v Scotland, and again we're just going to say kudos to Scotland for accepting such a warm up game, because it's really a good challenge for Georgia, who obviously have Wales, Fiji, and Australia. So I think Scotland are a good little prep for them in terms of they're going to bring a dynamic game, fast game that they're going to have to struggle to contain.
Georgia are going to have to deal with that. So they've got a double header. Actually, they're going back to Murrayfield next week. So it's going to be great for them. It's the first visit of a Tier 1 side to Tbilisi.
And it's long overdue.
They're going to be playing it in the Dynamo Arena in Tbilisi. That's a stadium with 54,000 capacity, which I suspect will be full.
It's on this Saturday, and it's at 5 o'clock Irish time. So I don't know what Tbilisi time is, but that's our time.
Pascal Gozer will be reffing. No major objections to him.
No.
Both sides have had shaky enough starts to their World Cup prep. Georgia just got started at the weekend. And,
on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, excuse me.
So it was a quick enough turnaround for them. But they did name somewhat different team. They were obviously shorn of a few of their key playmakers. Obviously, Lobzanidze for one.
The two halfbacks actually were different.
Both halfbacks, and I think the front row are all under 20s graduates from last year, apparently someone was saying, which is very impressive because they were on top in most of the scrums. They lost one scrum that I can recall. But they played against the Southern Kings, got their World Cup prep underway. It was interesting. They at one point they were 20 points to 5 down, and they only really got back into it in the 60th minute. They proved too strong for the Southern Kings in the end, but it was concerning for them how some of the looseness that in their own game invited pressure, and they weren't able to contain. Like, the Southern Kings can catch pass. They're a pretty soft side overall. We know them pretty well from the Pro 14, but one thing they can do is they can catch pass and execute a try when there's little intensity in the game. And Georgia didn't bring their own kind of levels of intensity, got blitzkrieg by them, and were behind and having to chase a game, and it was interesting to see how they went about it. So with
the answer was slowly. It's
and
not their ideal circumstance.
Eventually, they managed to nick the win in the last. I think it was the 78th minute they took the lead. And then they nearly coughed it up again. One thing that was dreadful was their line out. Their scrum, we know, is formidable. Their line out was pretty poor.
They were playing a young hooker who they hadn't played before. I think I'm not sure if he was uncapped, but he certainly wasn't a regular starter for them. And that definitely showed. The big main news from it though is that the open side flanker, who is named Georgi Sutskoredzi. I absolutely butcher that. I'm absolutely sure of it. But this guy was very much a revelation in the last year in terms of Georgian play. They've been putting him on the wing as a loose forward, and his carrying game has been superb.
Ruining the Rugby Europe opposition.
They were exiting with him on the wing, moving the ball out to him. He was such a dynamic ball carrier, and is such a dynamic ball carrier, that he was breaking through the line and being just a very effective ball in hand exit machine for them. Was causing defences all kinds of horrors, and was one of their secret weapons ahead of the World Cup. And appears to have picked up a very bad injury.
It was nasty. It happened. It just as because I think they went 10-0 up. Did the Southern Kings? They did after 7 minutes, and it was in the build-up play for that try that they got on 7 minutes that he went down, and he was helped off by two assistants. Looked to be not putting any weight on one leg. It looked like a pretty bad injury.
I believe that it is. And that's obviously massively disappointing, and for a side that, while they do have a lot of big men, that they don't have quite as many men as skilled and as dynamic as him, and that's definitely a major blow ahead of the World Cup. And you hate to see injuries like that in these warm-up games. That sucks. It is good that they came back from behind.
It is,
but we're going to learn ultimately a lot more about them in their game this weekend against Scotland, who have gotten their own campaign a little back on track with a victory.
A good win over France. It got a little loose in that second half, but they were the ones who grabbed the try.
It was quite stop-start. What I will say for it is that I actually, even though it was earlier, I had been working earlier in the day, so I watched the Ireland game first, and then I came in and watched that game, which I had recorded, and it was refreshing to see Scotland, even in a loose game where they weren't getting that much off, just how entertaining and dangerous they are. Just in terms to sort of contrast them with Ireland when they were beaten up front and they weren't quite getting things on up front. there was no danger to it.
Yeah.
Whereas with Finn Russell, there's just always danger. He was putting in these deliciously inviting kicks. Not all of them were coming off, not most of them really,
no,
but there was such danger to him, and he has just a wonderful, wonderful vision. And it's going to be a handful for the Georgian defence and any defence dealing with him, because he sees the game on a whole other level. And when, as we saw earlier in the Six Nations in the Calcutta Cup, when he gets his hands hot and he's just seeing the game, he can tear any team to pieces. And he was very close to doing so against France in this game.
Yeah, it didn't quite come off. I mean, he did catch Raka on the turn a few times, actually, with a few little dinks over the top. He was definitely exploiting that wing. But a few decent passes as well. Like, obviously Finn is an exciting player to watch. He is box office. But I thought a few aspects. I thought their backline was a bit more balanced even this week, even though Horn obviously did throw a horrendous intercept, but their centres were less porous than they were the week
Chris Harris
before.
Probably had his most positive outing.
Really good, and took his try really well. Lovely little line inside Van Mahina, catching Van Mahina sleeping, which is something that we can always do. If you just watch Van Mahina for 80 minutes of rugby, you'll find him sleeping at some point. Just fly there. But I thought Harris was very positive. He's a bit more physical in that jersey than Hugh Jones. There's question marks about Hugh Jones, I know he's been box office for them, but they do leak tries. I think he's
under pressure, 100%.
They do leak tries when he's there, and they just are a deficit as far as physicality is concerned, whereas they weren't this time around. Even though you think Horn isn't actually the most physical guy, he was taking it to the line and winning a few contacts in that 12 mould. He's not like Damien Delindy or someone, but he's going to do his job and try and go forward with it. So I was more positive. It was a more balanced look to that Scotland team for sure. And I thought,
but it was scrappy, and it was. If France were not quite at the same intensity level, and neither were Scotland, so they were kind of having a bit of fun. It'll be a good game for them going into the Lions Den, as it were, in Tbilisi, where I can't remember the last time in a big stadium in Tbilisi that Georgia did lose a game.
Yeah, it's tough to remember. It's probably Romania many years ago.
When was the last time Romania won away in Georgia? They've occasionally got a game off.
Decade maybe. They just never play there. Like no, as you say, no tier 1 side will go there, travel there, and play them, and they should.
Yeah, so it'll be very interesting to see if Scotland cope with the physicality of it,
and just the noise of it. Those Georgians get loud, especially in Tbilisi. It'll be a bit of a cauldron, and it'll be a bit heavy underfoot maybe as well, more so than Murrayfield. So you don't know. Maybe the passes don't stick, but maybe they do. The thing about Scotland's style of play, more so than Georgia's, is if it does click even once or twice and they grab 14 points, that like Scotland to this Scotland team, 14 points can be got in a matter of a couple of minutes.
For sure.
For this Georgia team, it's more likely that it'll take 30 minutes.
Georgia very much need to control the game to win it.
Yeah.
They do have the means to do it. I tell you what, Willem Nel was a revelation in terms of fixing the Scottish scrum last week against France. He came in.
Different challenge this week, though.
Yeah, what a serious challenge. Willem Nel's a great scrummager, but those Georgians are almost on another level.
Yeah.
And that's an exciting battle, and I'd love to see them pick Nell. I think if they don't pick Nell, they're in real trouble.
Yeah,
but I actually love to see them pick Nell and see his tight head scrummaging credentials really tested.
Yeah,
which they would most assuredly be. Obviously, Scotland have had their own injury concerns. Sam Skinner appears to be gone from the World Cup. He went off after a very positive game. Which is obviously very sad and disappointing for them. And Tommy Seymour hobbled off pretty early as well.
And
I don't know what the story is with him. But in general, their big guys are clicking. I thought Finn Russell and Stuart Hogg were both great.
Yeah.
I actually thought Stuart Hogg played well in the bad game in the defeat against France.
Yeah, he did. He was up for it. He had a lovely touch in the second half of the game just gone as well. A little chip and chase and gather that nearly yielded a try, but it didn't. There was a lot of that in that second half. They were both playing with ambition, but it just wasn't quite coming off.
And from Georgia's perspective, it's a good little bit of prep for the speed and attacking vigour that both Australia and Fiji are going to provide.
And a bit of Wales, I'd say, as well. Wales will try and up the pace on them.
Yeah,
for sure.
So they're going to have to get used to that. And I think one of the biggest challenges is going to be in terms of intrigue. Can the Scottish pack stand up to Georgia? Can they prevent them from controlling the game? And then from Georgia's perspective, can they take a tier 1 pack and take them to that dark place that they take all other Rugby Europe teams, pin them back in their own half, hold the ball, crush them, force a yellow card.
The serious thing about Finn's game, he loves to try things, and like as great as that is and ambitious as it is, if it doesn't yield a try, a lot of times it yields a scrum. And if Nell is getting bullied at the scrum time, then suddenly Finn's trying things every play is maybe not a great thing for them if they're just slightly not coming off. And then
the Georgian defence is a big job though. Like their defence, generally speaking, they probably leak too many soft yards against not great opposition. And Scotland have a very good attack, so it's going to be good learnings for them in terms of shutting down properly good attacks.
Yeah.
And it could be a harsh one for them if Scotland get it off.
Yeah, could be. It could be a welcome one. If Scotland teach them that lesson, it probably won't like completely damage them. It's just something that'll be good, because Georgia live in this world where they just don't know. They're better than everyone they play, so they don't actually know how good they are because they never play anyone at that level.
Yeah.
And you can see sometimes they get their prep wrong. Like going into that Italy game completely cold, which was like probably their biggest game of their history last autumn, when they were going to Italy to take on Italy for the chance to prove that they're better than Italy, and they went in cold, obviously off the back of months of prep and bigging this game up, whereas Italy had a run out with Ireland in Chicago the week before where they shipped a load of tries, but they at least got a hit out and then were sharper come game day than Georgia.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this time they've obviously opted to play the Southern Kings midweek and then have Scotland over and then do a double header. So they're obviously taking learnings from recent their recent failings, but which is good. But they still live in a point of unsurety where they're streets above, I mean, just way beyond everyone in the Rugby Europe Championship that they're a part of. And then even in their friendly games, and more often they just don't tend to play teams on their level at all, and so they just don't quite know where they're at. So this is great.
This double header against Scotland is going to be great for them in that way. They are a bit like Ireland in the sense that for a big game they can raise their game. And it is a big education for them ahead of this World Cup, because they have some tough games coming up in that pool. It's a really tough pool
playing
for
against
them.
Teams that want to play fast, which is what they don't want to do.
Well,
so
it's the big question. Can they shut them down? Like Spain want to play fast. It's obviously at a much lower level, but Spain get nothing off against Georgia pretty consistently. They just get... Like they can beat Romania, they can cause basically anyone else in that competition problems, and they come up against Georgia and it's just flatline, nothing ever. And that's what Georgia would hope to do to their opposition. So it'll be an education. It'll be interesting. It's a wonderful clash of styles as a rugby match.
Definitely.
It's got that intrigue to it. And I'm very curious to see what happens out in Tbilisi. I'm excited. I love the idea of Tbilisi hosting big matches with big crowds, that when the tier 1 teams can go to them, and maybe this is an example of a fixture that could be in the Six Nations in many years to come.
Well, there's that talk too, but for sure we'll be watching, and it's definitely interesting.
Predictions, by the way, just before we wrap that one up. So it's such a hard one to predict.
I don't know. I'm torn. I'm thinking Scotland will probably shock them with a few early tries and then won't recover quite. But I expect Georgia will cause them some problems. I think as good a scrummager as Nell is, expect him to get bullied once or twice by that Georgian pack.
I find it very curious. Like there's
more. Just the fact that Scotland can potentially be bad for so long in this game and go unpunished, maybe by Georgia's not accruing enough points.
Not scoreboard punished, but punished in other ways.
For sure. But Scotland's style is such, and Finn's style is such, that they can create something like that. And again, should it click for even a 10-minute period, that can mean 3 tries, and that's an unassailable lead for this Georgia team. But
I think maybe this is me straddling the middle ground again, but maybe a narrow win for Scotland. Maybe a comeback win for Scotland.
That'll be fun. Have Georgia cause them all kinds of worry.
Yeah, I feel like Georgia... It's a big game for them, but it's not in the same pressure building sense that the Italian one was. Like, it's still a World Cup warm up. There are bigger games to come, and yet it's still a chance for them to show what they can do. And I feel like they're going to be the right kind of up for this game.
Bigged up for it. I'd love to see Georgia get the win, to be honest.
Beko Gorgonzola running over boys for fun. That's what you want to see. And it can absolutely happen. That pack are vicious. So excited. Not sure what's going to happen, but excited to watch it
for sure. Thank you very much for watching that video. If you're new here, please like and subscribe down below, and leave a comment as well, because we enjoy the chat and conversation.